We're back with Sheriff candidate Pat Davis here for the Bernalillo County Sheriff, and our next question is, Sheriff White left you guys with quite a mess to clean up. He hasn't brought the Sheriff's Department into the 21st century, and Greg Solano up in Santa Fe is far outpacing him when it comes to technology. We had an incident recently where a few of the TV stations went off the air, and people really didn't know what was going on. So, considering a lot of Bernalillo County is out there in the distant areas, how would you handle bringing the Sheriff's Department into the 21st century and connecting it so that people wouldn't be left in the dark in situations like that?
I think, Mary, you touched on something that's really important. I come from a background where I've grown up in an environment in a world where we didn't have a computer available, where we didn't always have the ability to reach out in so many different ways to connect to so many different people. Again, we talk about, so many people know me more from my work, advocating on behalf of people and issues and victims in police work and in the courts and in law enforcement through the media. But we've also been creative and unique in those areas where we've reached out through social networking, Facebook and Twitter. And those are equal as important to getting information out to the public and to people who have those tools, but it's also important about how to quickly get information out to the news who can pass it on. What we saw this week, for instance, when some of our TV stations went out because of a structural failure up on the crest, people were concerned, and rightly so. They didn't understand what was going on. They didn't know where to get the answer. What Greg Solano's done in Santa Fe County and a lot more progressive law enforcement agencies have done is they've reached out, and again, it's about partnership, and partnered with technology providers who know how to connect with the community. I've written a piece for the FBI that they're distributing to agencies to teach them about how to engage technology in communicating with the public during emergencies and crises. What that means is it's a multifaceted approach, but using an organization or a technology company called Nixle, for instance, that's a little like Facebook and Twitter, but it's secure, it's a law enforcement-oriented program, and it lets people sign up to receive notices that happen in their neighborhood so that you're not inundated with notices for what happens in Taylor Ranch if you live in the East Mountains. It also integrates things like Facebook, Twitter, news feeds to pick up on key terms in the news, such as a power outage for this neighborhood for PNM, or a structure fire from Albuquerque Fire Department that diverts traffic. A sheriff is responsible for not only for the people in the unincorporated parts of the county, but also for everybody who lives in the city. And an organization and a technology application like that helps us coordinate all these different agencies, all the different sources of information into one place. And I'll give you one last point that we saw not long ago, that the Albuquerque public schools were criticized for locking down one of the high schools in the Heights when APD was looking for an active gunman. Normally they have a protocol where they notify parents when those lockdowns occur, but they couldn't because the person who was supposed to implement it, the principal, was locked down as well. I think that's a role that the Sheriff's Department should take on, because the public needs to know where to go in one place to find the information. The cops are going to be there on the scene, have the information, and they have access to outside sources who can spread that information. I think that's a place for the sheriff to step up and be responsive to everybody in our county, and not just a handful of people, or to leave so many scattered information sources that we don't know where to go when something's happening.
Well, thank you. That's very